Hi, my name is Priv and I'm one of the community managers at PQube. Today I'll be giving you a tutorial on Rover Builder, the 3D engineering sim where you're tasked to create the right rover for the right mission. In this tutorial I'll be giving you a step-by-step guide on how to build your very first rover. Let's get started. First, let's have a quick look at the user interface. In the top left hand corner you can find 4 different tools. Firstly, we have build. This function is automatically activated when selecting a material or part, allowing you to then start building your rover. Next up is select. This lets you click drag a selection box to highlight several different materials and or parts at once. Alternatively, you can select any one part by simply clicking it. You can also shift click if you would like to select few specific parts. And then we have move. This allows you to drag either the entire rover or any part that is not attached to the core. The Alt button on your keyboard is the shortcut for this action. Lastly, split join. This button allows you to separate a beam into 2. It is helpful for shortening the beam without having to delete or replace the whole thing. Simply select the tool and draw a line across the material you need to split. The join function can be used for instances when you have a beam in multiple pieces, separated by these joint nodes and need it to become one continuous piece. In order to do so, select all the beam pieces needed, click on the split join button, and this will convert them into one continuous beam. So just below are various materials and parts. We have undo, which cancels your last action. Redo reverses the undo in case you have accidentally pressed it. Clear all, which deletes everything, leaving only the core. Mirror, which is a very useful function, which you will see in our tutorial, which turns on symmetry for the selected axes, and you will see the axes below. In the middle of the screen, you will see the central unit. This is what we will be building our rovers from. Let's start by building the front of our rover. So go over to the left hand side and select beam from the materials section. And then select the mirror option just below and make sure that the x-axis is selected. This will allow us to make identical beams on either side. Once we have lined up where we would like the beams to be, press the spacebar to get a grid up and you can measure up to 4 squares. Make sure you deselect the mirror button to do so. Once you have lined up where you would like the single beam to be, hit the spacebar again and add the beam straight across. Now we'll be building a structure where we can add the wheels onto. So let's select the axle option in the materials section. And since we want them on both sides, we will need to select the mirror button again. Just for support, we can add another single beam at the bottom. Make sure you deselect the mirror button before adding any singular materials. For the rotator to move the wheels left and right, we will need it to be lined up to the wheels horizontally. This means adding a beam in the middle here. Now let's go ahead and add the rotator. As you can see, we don't have anything connecting the rotator to the axles. So now let's build a structure connecting the two. Let's start by adding a small beam on each axle so we can link them together. This time we won't be using the beam but the link option, which will allow the axle to move in tandem with each other. Now that the link to each axle is in place, we can now attach the rotator to that link. The rotator can now move the link left and right, also turning the axles at the same time. Now that the front structure of the rover is ready, we can now add our wheels. We will need to add 2 small beams to each of the axles for them to sit on. As you can see on the floor, the indicator is showing which way is forward, and the arrows on the wheels are facing the opposite direction. So let's select the wheels we have just added either by clicking it or using the select button to select each of the wheels and use the flip function in the bottom left. This will now flip the wheels in the correct direction. We have now built the front of our rover and can go ahead using the same steps to build the back of it. Now that we have added our second rotator, here is where we are going to be making an adjustment. As you can see, both rotators will turn in the same direction. In order to turn the rover more efficiently, we would need the back wheels to turn in the opposite direction. In order to do this, we would need to be selecting the rear rotator and flipping its direction. Now we can continue building the rest of the rover. As we add the rear wheels, you can see that they are facing the wrong way again. Let's go ahead and flip that. As you can see, we can move forward and back fine, but there seems to be a little issue while turning left and right. Hit the escape button to go back to build mode. Firstly, the rotator is going in the opposite direction when we're turning left and right, so we can go ahead and swap that. We're going to change brake to spacebar. You can also see that the rotator has a brake as well, which we're going to get rid of. The other issue we came across was that the wheels were turning so aggressively. To change this, you can click on the rotator and click on options. Here you can adjust some settings for the rotator. So let's go ahead and change the max velocity down to 30 and max angle down to 45 degrees. Now let's do the same to the other rotator. Why don't we also add return to center? This will let the rover drive straight as soon as you let go of either A or D to turn. Now let's give this another test drive. Since we've made those adjustments, you can see the turns are a lot more smoother than it was before. Now we've run into another issue: power. The best solution for this is adding solar panels to our rover. For this rover, we are going to add it to the central unit, but we will need to add beams on either side of the unit. Now we have something the solar panels can attach onto. When we drag it over, it will be highlighted red, meaning you will not be able to attach it. Simply scroll the scroll wheel on your mouse to tilt the solar panels until you are able to. Now that we've added the solar panels, let's give it another test drive. This shows how important the solar panels are. As you can see, the power drains ever so slightly. So there you have it. You have a fully functional rover that you can jump into missions with. Stay tuned for more tutorials on Rover Builder.